Is up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the GZ Chop Shop podcast. I am your host, Projektitachi, joined by my good friend and co-host, Warnurse. And we're doing this recording pretty late in the evening. We're both tired. We had really busy days, weeks, especially you, buddy. I know you're like exhausted over there.
I hate my life.
But we needed to get this episode out to you guys because, we got to talk about the Sony servers that shut down and the whole hoopla that's been circling around about that. But before we dive in, gotta let you guys know, we have officially launched, the post is actually already out there too, we've officially launched our GZ Chop Shop Press Play newsletter, which is I guess you could say an attachment piece to the podcast. And if you guys have ever read any Game Informers, Electronic Gaming Magazine, Nintendo Power, any of that stuff back in the day, this newsletter will remind you of those days. We chock it full of gaming news and sometimes promo codes, as well as game keys that we get sometimes from developers to share with our community. So if any of that interests you, visit our website, gzchopshoppodcast.com. And then right there at the top, there's a nice little button for it. You click newsletter. All you got to do is put in your email and you're in. It's absolutely free. So you guys can get gaming keys for free. I'm just saying. But you got to be a member of the newsletter. So go and check it out. And if you're curious of what it looks like before you sign up, when you go to the website and you visit the newsletter page, every previous newsletter we put out, you can find right there on the page. It'll take you to the whole newsletter post page where you can check it out and see if it interests you. Or if you think a friend would like it, you can share it with them. So go and check it out, gzchopshoppodcast.com. Click the newsletter button, join the newsletter. All right. Now, without further ado, let's talk about PlayStation and their server shutdown, which I do want to preface this by saying this was not as bad as what happened in 2011.
It's not. And, just kind of like a little side note here. Video game, anything to do with the gaming industry, you don't typically very often see that stuff on the news. Like, you know what I mean? Usually if you see something to do with gaming on the news, it's someone trying to well, that kid was angry and he played Call of Duty 3 years ago. Yep. So that's, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like blaming the gaming industry for something. This one wasn't, though. This one was just I was kind of surprised, but the transition is what got me, because I was at work. I was working with a patient that morning, and the news was on, and it was local news. It was 4 people died in a fire last night as the Dallas Police Department. And I'm like, okay. And then it transitioned into the PlayStation Network has been down for 2 days. And so I'm like, the transition of emotion and to a non-violent video game finger pointing situation. It was just really funny to me. I was like, what? And then it was the backlash of the players. And I'm like, you don't see stuff, like I said, on the news about gaming. And for that to make the news, that tells me 2 things. One, the gaming industry is that big now for that to make news, and for them to talk about just the random stuff of gaming, the impact of stuff that happens. But the gamers in general, I don't feel like people were as, it was, like you said, it wasn't as bad as people said it was. We have servers that go out sometimes. It happens. PlayStation does it. Xbox does it. Everyone's been hacked on occasion. I'm not giving excuses here, but shit happens. And it seemed to me like the only community that was actually pissed was the Call of Duty community. They were the only ones that I heard about that were upset. And it made me happy. I'm sorry if you don't like that comment. I don't like you guys. I don't. So it made me happy.
And it's funny you mention that, because I didn't know, and I can 100% admit this.
And I like Call of Duty. That's how much the community gets on my nerves.
Yeah, it's the community. I don't get me started on Call of Duty. But I didn't even know the servers were down until 12 hours in.
I didn't either.
I didn't know until...
I only knew because my son told me, and I was like, wait, what? Because I mainly play PC and then I have my PlayStation.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, the server's down. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I was living under a rock. I work night shift. I don't always catch everything.
Right. And I know some people probably be like, but you have a gaming podcast and you do gaming journalism. How did you not know the servers were down? I was playing on my PlayStation but I play a lot of single player story driven games. So I didn't need the PlayStation Network to play a good portion of my games. And I still get disc-based games when I can. So, I was kind of in my own little world doing my own little thing. It was like 12 hours in before I found out that the servers had completely said, nope, we're done. And I only found out because I was on Threads, and the Xbox community were having a field day.
Dude, you know what? That's the thing about the gaming, and y'all are horrible to each other, man. Let me tell you, like I know we say some stuff about Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo stuff, but we're just talking about the facts, like stuff that happens, and then we might give a little bit of like our thoughts. But like when something happens in one of the communities or one of the businesses, the Sony, Microsoft, they do not hesitate. They do not hesitate to go.
They are on it.
Y'all are a bunch of POSs, and your servers are lame, and that's what you get for what?
Right, like bet you wish it was so much. Bet you wish you had
like
the
business models aren't similar.
I was like, and I was so confused. I was like, what is happening? What did Sony do that now the tide has swung in Xbox's favor? And I saw the servers were down, and I was like, oh. And I'm like, dude, I didn't even know. I didn't notice.
And y'all are going to act like Xbox Live never had issues.
It's just the flavor of the day.
You know who doesn't really have issues is Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like they've had issues, but just not nearly as much. I think they got hacked like once or something. But yeah, Microsoft, it's like watching like two of the richest spoiled brats in the room one up each other every time the other
For
one
real.
like it's like my father actually bought a new Lamborghini. Oh well, my father just bought, and like what? Well, we have 500 shares and blah blah blah, and then it's like the other one has to want, like that's what it sounds like to me.
Yep. So
we bought a new butler. What do you mean you bought one?
You bought a new butler?
Like, that's what they sound like every time.
It was hilarious and sometimes just annoying, but mostly hilarious watching the back and forth between the community.
They're vicious. They're so vicious.
And the PC community was just eating it up too, because they were just like, I'm on PC. I never have to worry about this regardless.
You remember being like a kid and like other kids you didn't know would be like making fun of each other. And then like, there'd be stuff like no one knew each other's parents or lives, but someone would be like, your mom's a big fat whore.
Right.
And you're like, what? Never, you don't even know me. Like Xbox and PlayStation, just like, y'all are a piece of crap server and your community is dumb. It's like, she can't fight, man. Like, why are they so angry with each other? Full disclosure, they're both companies that part of the gaming industry. They're out there to make money. They'll try to make you happy, but they won't hesitate to pull the rug out under your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest issue with all this is physical copies going away.
Physical copies going away. I do.
And the community supporting this. Like it's not a problem.
I actually recently came across an article where someone pointed out, I think it was on Polygon, and they had to admit that the outage made them realize just how few of the games they have access to that they actually own.
Right. And even with the discs nowadays, you still a lot of times need that online access to even play. Even with the disc is just, instead of downloading it from online now, you're downloading it from the disc. And then you still have to get the patches from online. So, I mean, really, physical copies they don't really even matter anymore.
Yeah. And I do want to stress when we mention the physical copies, because I know a lot of people, because we get keyboard warriors almost every episode. Like even we have happy-go-lucky episodes, somebody comes in there and they're like, so we know that the current physical discs are glorified CD keys. We know that. We're talking the classic discs where the whole game was on the disc. And I get it. They were saying, well, these games are so massive, they don't fit on the discs anymore. The manufacturing costs would be more, and it just doesn't, the artwork and all the stuff they come up with. I'm like,
yeah, how your shit about costs when game prices continue to go up when they got rid of the physical aspects of it.
Right. And then the digital costs just as much as the physical. So even if they're like, well, we have to raise the price of the physical, I'm like, well, there's collector value to that. But hey, how about you cut down the marketing cost a little bit?
No, for real, because you got to think like when these AAA games are getting as bad as Hollywood now, where they will spend hundreds of millions of dollars
Looking at you,
to
Call of
make
Duty.
a game, and then another 50 million, 100 million to market the game for the game to either fail or not meet expectations. And then you don't even get the physical copy. You don't even get, the stuff that
Ownership.
comes with the game anymore, ownership of the game. You don't get like the cool little maps or whatever that used to come with. You don't get, there's way less enjoyment purchasing a game than they used to. Now, when you buy the game, you're buying the game, but that's it. You're not getting the extra stuff that made gaming exciting, even 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Well, you're not even buying the game anymore. You're buying the license to indefinitely rent the game. Because what a lot of people forget, and this should be an eye-opener, especially with Sony pushing so hard for digital product and removing physical, that is a terrible idea. But a lot of gamers of the current generation don't understand why this is not a good thing. Is it more convenient? Yes. But in the long term, it's going to be the same issue that I think a lot of PC gamers refuse to acknowledge. The price they pay for having their games on a superior system is they have zero collector value.
Right. And it's something that I love Steam. I think Steam is a great, it's a great application to have, and it's the number one in digital games. And they've done a great job for the most part handling it. But they're not gonna have that CEO forever. They're not gonna have that business model forever. Eventually someone's gonna pass away, leadership's gonna change, someone's gonna get greedy. That's how things go. Hopefully not, but it's most likely gonna happen. And as good as Steam tends to be towards its player base and community, that may not last forever. And Xbox and PlayStation or Sony and Microsoft, they're going down the route, not just Netflix, especially Xbox. There's been talks in the gaming industry, and I think Ubisoft was a big one. Ubisoft made comments about like renting games out like hourly versus downloading the game, purchasing it to rent long term, which is what we do now.
Yeah. They wanted a permanent business model that kept the money coming for each individual game. So even if the game failed, it would still generate revenue.
Right. And their argument was, well, if we sell you a $70 game and you play that game for 700, 800 hours, like, maybe you like Skyrim or something, you really love that game. They're not, in their minds, they're not getting the money's worth on their end for your enjoyment of the game, which takes away a huge aspect of what the gaming industry used to be, which was for fun. The games were created for fun. Yes, to make money, but the point wasn't to be so greedy that you ruin the game and player experience. And that's what that would do. Don't let greed destroy the gaming industry. And it already is. It's already having ripple effects across the board with the Netflix style
live service games.
The live service games. And it's such a bad idea. And it's so far gone there. There's not a whole lot we can do about it until we watch that thing collapse. Because don't think for a second that these studios are getting their money back for all these live service games, because they're not.
They're already, half of them don't even make it 2 to 3 years.
No,
like a lot of people are thinking.
There's exceptions, like Fortnite is a big exception.
Fortnite's a big exception because it was one of the pioneers. So the ones who started are going to thrive. They created it.
Yeah.
But we've had like 4 to 5 failures already. Concord being one, Battleborn was another one. There was, they've already died. You can't even remember half of them. But
well,
there's like 2, 3 more that came out that died upon launch.
Well, and the biggest issue is when a company owns so many of the studios and they put it on and this goes for Sony too. Xbox is just more, their business model is slightly different and they're closer to a Netflix style versus
with Game Pass.
Sony's is. Yeah. But when you own so many AAA studios and so many AAA titles and you're only charging people, one person or a household, whatever, $20 a month, and then you're selling AAA games that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and you should have probably sold 60, 70 million copies, or, you know, whatever the case, to like worldwide to make up for that, but you're not. Don't think for a second that $20 per person worldwide is going to cover the costs of all of these games that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And people are like, well, that's where microtransactions come in. Sure, but all of that money is not going to that specific studio to get their money back. It's being split between all of the studios that are owned under one branch.
Yep. That budget is getting strained. The income is getting split into a ton of different directions. And most of those developers aren't seeing that return themselves because they're paid up front, usually a flat fee. So it's just Microsoft and Sony trying to get that flat fee and then some back, because that money coming in, yeah, it goes into a budget of sorts, but it's for the shareholders because they want their money back and triple.
Right.
And if they're not getting the money back that they put in, then that's when you start seeing these layoffs, these closures, corners cut, games not even lasting a year, 2 years.
And I think too, like, people don't realize this, or maybe not, they don't know it. Netflix was started in 1997, and it wasn't until I think like 2008 or something, like around that area, 2006 or 8, that they started actually offering streaming. And then eventually they cut off the physical copy version, like the DVDs. And then all these other companies followed suit. They started following that business. That's the thing with capitalism, right? When you see something working, everybody tries to copy it and then capitalize off of it. And it either does really well or everybody ends up failing and it bubble bursts or whatever. And in this case, everyone fell for it. And now we're all stuck in this streaming service life. Everything has a subscription, and it's gross, man. It is so gross.
I'm not a fan of the subscription model. Obviously, I have subscriptions because they're inescapable. There's things I love that are behind subscriptions. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop the things I love doing.
Well, and it's the thing on top of this, like, all the talks about putting ads in games and stuff too. You won't, like, imagine not being able to play a game without an ad pop up, or
it would be mobile gaming.
Or like you go, oh my god,
it would be mobile gaming.
Well, they already have that, but like you sign in to Xbox or PlayStation, and then it's like you already get the ads for promoting games, which I'm fine with, but just like pop-ups in general. Aren't you depressed?
Just in the middle of your game, you're in the middle of your boss fight,
and then an ad
for hymns comes on.
Cymbalta. Play the game. Cymbalta?
Yeah.
I thought I had that week.
And depending on your subscription tier, depends on how many ads you get.
And they think they're slick, by the way, because I was getting a PlayStation Premium for my kids. And I was just going to buy like the premium plan. And then I was going to buy, like, I was just going to get it for them for like 3 months, just to see like if they actually use it a lot. And then if they do, I'll get it for a year. But I noticed something, okay? When you go in there, and this is on the PlayStation, this isn't like online when you go to the PlayStation, store or whatever. It's on the PlayStation does this. When you make your choice and you're like, I want 1 month or 3 months, premium or plus, it will try to trick you. You will click X on the option you want, and then it'll phrase it in a way that it's trying to get you to choose yes to a year and charge you that without you realizing this. So if you're not reading it, you're going to charge yourself $160 because of the way it's written, and it automatically puts it on yes.
And
it's so grimy. It is so freaking grimy. And I was asking a buddy about this a couple of days ago because I don't have an Xbox and he does. And I was like, hey, does Xbox do this? Like when you go on there to apply? He goes, yeah, they do the same thing. And I was like, this is ridiculous, man. And I gave it to Nintendo because I got on the Switch just to check it out. And they don't do that. Like whichever one. And I'm not like, don't get me wrong, I'm not glazing on Nintendo. They got their own problem. I'm just saying, like, at least in that, from
they haven't adopted
thing,
it
a little more. They haven't adopted it yet, probably, but yeah, at least so far there. But I was like, man, that's grimy. And I was talking to my kids. I was like showing them, like, look, you guys have to read stuff before you choose to buy something, because this is what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to lie to you, but it's not a lie. It's like a deception. And then, and they're like, look at me like, why do people do that? I'm like,
Greed.
I don't know. Greed. But just be careful.
Yep. That's why, even though, and I wonder if people crunch the numbers sometimes. Sometimes paying for a year for things today is not as much of a discount as it used to be like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're better off doing that month to month. If you notice, back then, the year was like a special privilege. They didn't push it as hard because they actually made more money on the month to month. But the year actually saved you money. Like sometimes you do like 50, $60. But now they're pushing the year because they know the difference in discount isn't that huge. And once you're in, you can get mad, you can cancel. They already got your money. They want that year's worth up front.
And do you remember when you used to sign up for things for 6 months or a year? That was it. And you had to choose to resubscribe. After that went away. I'm not sure when that went away. It's just something that I've noticed, that things now, even if you choose the year, it auto rescribes. You have to buy the year, subscribe for the year, and then immediately go into the settings after that and unsubscribe.
Yeah. And you got to be careful too, because you think you'll remember the next month. But if you notice, companies love to change their billing cycles, and they'll change their billing cycle. So by the time you remember that year's coming due, they send you, it's the email that says, we already took the money, you're good for another year. And you're like, crap, I forgot. Because the billing cycle changed.
That happened to me with Amazon. Like, this was like 2 or 3 years ago. I did the yearly subscription, and I didn't, that's how I learned. I didn't realize that you have to choose not to resubscribe. And like a year came through, and I was like, why did $149 or whatever come out of my account? I was like, what the hell? And I went on there, and Amazon like, thank you for resubscribing. I'm like,
yeah.
Bitch, I didn't.
Yep. Just granted himself access. Yep.
So couple things like that. That's why I tell people that you have to read this stuff, because everything's very deceptive, and they want you to be subscribed. It's bad when there's commercials for apps that you type in your email address and it brings up all your subscriptions that and then you have to pay a subscription for that.
A subscription fee for them to tell you how to save on subscriptions.
And then there was talks about like subscriptions for your car to have like heating pads. Was that BMW?
I think that was BMW that did that.
Jesus Christ. Do I need to pay a subscription for like gas or something?
Dude, don't even get that started. Oh, don't even put that out there.
Shit.
Renege on that one.
Oh my God.
But I do want to come back to something.
Subscribe.
I want to, guys, subscribe to the podcast. It's absolutely free though, but subscribe, follow the subscription model. I want to come back to something I brought up earlier about the ownership of games, and GameStop throwing shade at PlayStation, saying, oh, I guess you guys wish you had physical copies.
Yeah.
And you know what? They weren't wrong, because I know a lot of people were on there and they're saying, well, I was still playing my digital games through the night. I'm going to explain to you why, because I know a lot of you do not read the TOS. I didn't read a lot of TOSs until stuff started changing. The reason your digital game worked isn't because you owned it. It's because the licensing service for your specific game was up and running and checked that you had the license active for that game. Ask anyone who tried to play Minecraft how well that went for them.
And it didn't require for you to be online to play it.
So it wasn't just the multiplayer games that were down. There was actually a lot of single player games that were down, especially ones that don't have a partnership with Sony, because who owns Minecraft? Microsoft. And Microsoft utilizing, through the PlayStation Network is like, that's the handshake. Your network's up. We can check a person's license through your network. That's the handshake. That goes down. Microsoft's like, no. You don't get to play our game until we can verify you have the license for it. So that's why physical copies will always be superior. And I mean old school physical, because that was never an issue.
Gone are the days where you gotta imagine though, like when you bought a big game back in the day and it came with 4 discs, you're like, oh, this is a big game. But games now that are story driven, would I can't imagine, like even with modern day technology and stuff they've done with discs, I can't imagine how many discs. Imagine like open up to 8 discs.
I mean, Final Fantasy Rebirth was 2 discs, but let's be realistic. Not all of these games need to be as big as they are. A lot of them are massive for no reason.
But yeah, the shaders is a big one. I don't know if you've ever like looked at games with and without shaders, but fun fact here for me is it doesn't fucking matter. It really doesn't. It really doesn't matter. I don't know what the whole thing with shaders is because I've never seen a difference. I have a pretty damn good PC, and the only difference I see is if I don't use the shaders, my performance sucks.
I will die, and this is my opinion.
I think it's just fluff. I think it's fucking video game fluff.
Fluff, yeah. And this is my opinion. I think a lot of this stemmed from competitive gaming via PC because there are little nuances in those games that on a player to player basis matters to them. Just like the FPS. Like they're like, I can't play anything under 120. Sir, I didn't even know that was a thing until like the late 2000s. I was playing games since the Nintendo Entertainment System. I've played on a VTech. If y'all don't know what VTech is, well, I just told you how old I am.
I'll get you your cane, man.
Yeah, I need my cane. I was playing on a VTech. You know what wasn't a concern? Shaders and frames per second. And I have played at least one of every generation of console and old school PC games before they really were being built for gaming. I'm talking when Prodigy was still a thing. Once again, if you don't know what that is, it's probably too young for this show. Playing old school games on that. So when these things with shaders and frames per second came out, I'm like, what the heck is everyone talking about? Does the game run? Can you see it? Then you're good. But once like they started pushing this stuff, I think like when developers for these parts to put their parts out, they needed a way to justify it. So they were telling people, yeah, a game should run at 120 frames per second. No less. If anything less is subpar, and people ate it up. They ate it up. And they're like, yeah, you can see a difference. There is a difference. Well, I mean, if I want to sell you a product, what is the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to create a problem that my product can solve. So I'm going to downplay everything else. I'm going to show you a game in the poorest quality possible to tell you my product makes the game look like this.
It's like when you go to a store like Best Buy, right? And the TVs, the screens look insanely good. Like, how do they look that good? But you take it home and you're like, why doesn't it look the same?
Yeah.
Because you don't know, most people don't understand what just happened, and they don't have the equipment that they were using for that TV.
Including the store lighting. If you actually read up on it, the store lighting plays a huge role. The vivid colors are specific settings to complement the store lighting that is specifically set in position at the entertainment parts of the store. It's all part of the plan.
It's all part of the plan.
It's all part of the plan. But this is why, Sony doing away with physical media, actually, it really ticks me off because I don't want gaming to go into this digital only thing. Because basically what they're saying is at any given moment, we can take your games away and you're going to pay us full price still. But when we don't want to supply this game anymore, we don't have to, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because
in like 5 or 6 years on the next gen console, they'll have it up there for you to rebuy as a backlog for the previous generation.
Yeah.
Which right now it doesn't seem like a big deal, right? Because they're playing off the nostalgia of our age group, which works. Like when I was able to get Legend of the Dragoon for $10 and play it, I was like, oh, this is awesome. But I knew what was happening. And then
that's why I am so glad.
They won't give me Nightmare Creatures.
The Nightmare Creatures. They
bastards.
And look, someone is sitting on that IP, but hey, at least they're not milking it and abusing it. But yeah, I see that all the time. I go on PlayStation and they almost get me too. They're like, hey, remember this game from the PS3? We remastered it. And I'm like, I would get it if I didn't still have my PS3. Thankfully, I do with all my physical copy games. Yay for me.
I just want to say this is my personal opinion, and I will die on this hill. If your game, if a company puts a game out, and for that game to thrive and make money, it requires microtransactions and skin and battle passes, your game is bad. Your game is a scam. Your game is not good because you never gave anyone the game. You gave everybody hope. You gave everybody a lie. You gave everybody part of the game, and they have to purchase pieces of the game throughout the game's existence.
You know what this reminds me of?
It's ridiculous.
I don't remember what year it is, but do you remember the guy who sold the Statue of Imagination?
That was so long ago. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's a core memory.
Yeah. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, look up the guy who sold the Statue of Imagination, and you'll see that what Daniel says is exactly that. They're selling you a blank canvas, and they're saying, the more you pay us for this blank canvas, then the more we will add to it. Instead of where before they had to give us the finished painting and we paid them for the finished painting. Now they give us a blank canvas and they say, and it's a huge canvas. They'll come at us with this big ass canvas and be like, see this? And we're like, yeah, there's so much that could go on that canvas. They're like, yes, now pay us.
That's why we're not going to see a resurgence of physical copies ever again. It's gone. It's not going to happen. And it's because now that things are digital, now they can do things like battle passes. They can't do all those extra transactions and stuff with physical copies. That's why live service games aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, it really.
Thank God for indie companies putting out good games.
But what do you guys think? Like I said, I don't think that the server going down for a day was a terrible thing. I know everyone.
I thought it was closer to 48 hours.
Or yeah, like 2 days, I guess.
Over the weekend. Which honestly, guys, come on, let's be honest. We needed to. I'm saying this as a gamer. Sometimes we need a couple
days off.
Sometimes we need to go outside.
I was going to say some of us probably.
And that's coming from me. Okay,
could do with some sunlight.
I'm pushing 500 hours in Satisfactory, people. That's coming from me. Sometimes we got to go outside. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's admit that.
I'm not putting my gaming hours out there. I'm not embarrassing myself. Anyway, all I know is that, compared to 2011.
Dare you?
What?
500 hours in Satisfactories. That's impressive.
That is impressive.
It's a damn good game.
That is impressive. I just have a game that I put over 1,129 hours in. And I still haven't beaten that.
Okay. All right, let's go on.
Yeah, don't make me do my anime glasses thing. I'll do
Nerd.
it. I'm not proud because not of the hours, but of the game that those hours are in.
What game is it?
Destiny 2.
Oh my God, I'm done. Shame.
Or
I need a shame bell.
It's one of the
Destinies.
Yeah. Either way, I have yet to triumph over that.
It's your biggest failure.
My biggest failure. I was a huge Destiny fan. I love Destiny, man. And that was before it went free to play.
Yeah.
One day I'll have a game top it. I thought Elden Ring got close, but I need like 300 more hours. But yeah, I don't think the 2 days were as bad as people thought. And Sony given 5 free days, I know doesn't seem like a lot because a lot of people probably pay for like months in advance or already have a year and they're like, what are 5 days going to do? Well, they can't give you a free game because a free game to 16 million subscribers? You're talking billions of dollars in revenue they would lose to give anyone a free game. And then
and let's be honest, we didn't lose money.
Yeah.
Like really, like 48 hours. Like to me, it was just one of those things. Things happen. The world's not perfect. Things happen. Sometimes we got to chill out.
If it really bothers you, you could always do. This is one of the reasons I started doing the month to month. Once I realized the difference wasn't really that big in a month and a year when you add it all up. Just do the month to month subscription. And then when the service crashes, cancel your subscription. Then if you can ride out the rest of your subscription, they're not getting any more of your money until they fix it. And you don't feel gypped when they come back and say, we're giving everyone extra days, because then you get 5 free days that you otherwise wouldn't have had anyway because you canceled your subscription because their shit wasn't working. Problem solved. So, But yeah, what do you guys think? Did you even know that the servers were down? Or were you like me and totally oblivious until like
I knew it was
halfway
Dallas
through it?
Morning News and my son, and something about a fire.
There was something about a fire and oh yeah, Sony PlayStation Network is down. But are you guys okay with physical copies going away? Or do you think physical copies should try to make a resurgence? Do you think it doesn't really make a difference in the end? Let us know in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, sound off in the comments below. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcasting platform, hit us up on the GZChopShopPodcast.com. If you do so on your browser, right in the lower right-hand corner, there's a little red microphone where you can submit your thoughts as a voice clip or just a note for us to read in a future episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So let us know. Also, do not forget to join the GZ Chop Shop Podcast Press Play newsletter, which has officially launched. You can sign up also on the website, GZChopShopPodcast.com. Sometimes there's promo codes in there for our merch. I'm pretty sure if you join the newsletter right now, there's something like a 20% discount for sharing the newsletter with up to 3 friends. Don't know. Got to go join and sign up. But anyway, you guys have been amazing. Take care of yourself and each other. We'll catch all you wonderful people on the next podcast if the servers don't crash.